part of my work is ensuring that the CGE understands that gender equality includes protecting the rights of sexual and gender minorities in South Africa and ensuring that our mandate of fostering gender equality as a institution tasked with fostering democracy through ensuring and protecting gender equality includes and does not leave behind LGBTI people. Some of the programs that fall under some of the work that I do includes ensuring that I speak to different stakeholders on various issues, and these issues have included intersex genital mutilation, ensuring that the Department of Education includes trans and gender non-conforming students in its uniform school guidelines, ensuring that the work of ensuring equality, particularly within the CGE, and understanding gender equality within the CGE includes a recognition that LGBTI people are marginalized due to their gender or as a result of their gender and their gender expression.
Kgotso Africa Borwa, and welcome to another informative episode of Gender Space, the talk show where we tackle gender inequality issues. I'm your host, Twasa. Thank you so much for tuning in. The LGBTQIA+ community continues to face persecution and discrimination, leading to incidents where their rights are violated. Despite educational campaigns on sexuality and calls for equality, the LGBTQIA+ community continues to be alienated by most in society. When will this change? What are some of the main challenges they face, and what are we doing to bring an end to this? That's the show today. Welcome, and let's get talking. You're watching Gender Space right here on Dumisa TV, channel 340, and the topic today is LGBTQIA+ rights and equality in South Africa. Have your say on our social media pages. Please go to YouTube at Commission for Gender Equality and join us on X at CGE_ZA. On Facebook, we are Commission for Gender Equality, and on Instagram at CGE Live. Send us an email, info@cge.org.za. Joining me in the studio to help us investigate today's topic is Nomthandazo Sithole, who is a legal officer for the Commission for Gender Equality, and Kollegile Mnisi from the Foundation for Human Rights. Welcome to Gender Space.
Thank you, Twasa.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so good to have experts on the subject. Now, let us start off here. Tell us what LGBTQIA+ stands for. Kollegile, help us.
Oh, me.
You.
Yeah. So it's a loaded phrase, right? LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very loaded. So it's literally just an acronym. L being for lesbian, G being for gay, B bisexual, transgender, intersex, asexual. And the plus is a very interesting component. So just to backtrack a bit, so for the context of people to understand what we really mean by these phrases and these acronyms, lesbian, it would be predominantly woman-to-woman attraction. That's that. And then with gay, it's predominantly used to describe a man who's attracted to other men, sexually, emotionally, and. But another interesting component is that lesbian women can also be called gay as well, because it's male on male, female on female attraction. And then you get now the bisexual component, where it's attracted to a wide array of gender identities, irrespective of the anatomy. It could be a male, it could be a female. Then you get the transgender component that a lot of people are battling with. So I could be born predominantly, I could be born to be known as what is male. So I could be a boy child. And then as I grow up, my gender identity, I just discovered that, you know what, I identify as a woman. So that's that. Could be either male or female, and then you identify as the latter or the former, that's that. And then you get now the intersex. So it happens, you get people who are born with two sets of reproductive organs. Some they descend, some you find that they're actually just inside their actual body. And then you get the asexual, so it's the attraction, it's people who don't have any sort of sexual, emotional, or any sort of attraction to any sexual identity or gender identity. But with the plus, it's an interesting component, and that's why it's very important to keep on carrying the plus as you go on with this acronym. Because what we are saying is that we recognize that there are other sort of sexual orientations and gender identities that people may necessarily identify with, which are not covered in the spectrum of this LGBTQIA plus component.
As you've just described the different meanings of the different letters, can you just go on and elaborate on the challenges that are faced by members of this community?
Interesting question, and I love that question. And in answering that, I always say it's not inherently just that it's the LGBTQAI plus community or the rainbow community. We face similar challenges. In fact, because I'm also a part of the community, the community faces similar challenges like you would face. You've got an issue with load shedding, I have the same. But the difference with us, or the difference with the community, is the fact that they face inherent challenges challenges that are inherently targeted at them. Because by social standards and social norms, you are not what society expects you to conform to be. So you are speaking hate speech, hate crimes, corrective rapes, discrimination, and. So if you are battling with service delivery, I'm also battling with the same thing. It's that. And I am answering this in this manner, in this context, so not to position LGBT or the rainbow community as a separate sort of human species, because that is predominantly the ideology that people carry. So everything that you face, the community faces. It's just that with them, it's so exacerbated because now there's hate crimes and killings and.
The atrocities that you've just mentioned have put a spotlight on the rights of LGBTQIA plus community. Please tell us a little bit more about these rights.
When we speak about LGBTQIA plus rights, we are talking about the legal and social rights of members of the LGBTQIA plus community. They include the right to marry, the right to adopt, the right to have access to healthcare. Our constitution in section 9 explicitly prohibits discrimination against anyone on the grounds of gender, sex, and sexual orientation. We also have a purpuda, which was introduced to also give effect to these rights. So we see developments in our case laws as well, in our court decisions. Lapho kuwukuthi inkantolo zinika amandla to la malungelo lawa, njenga the recent case decision yase Constitutional Court lapho kwathiwa section 40 was unconstitutional insofar as it excluded members of the LGBTQIA plus community. In that particular case, there was a lesbian couple, lapho sikhuluma ngabantu besifazana ababili abakwi relationship. They wanted to establish a family through IVF. And then umntwana mayezalwa, the mother who carried the child is fully recognized in law, but then the other one was not recognized or afforded the same parental rights, despite the joint decision to have a child. So then they approached court to pronounce on section 40 of the Children's Act. And it was in that court decision that they said, no, this is unconstitutional because it excludes same-sex partners. And then legislature ukuthi ithatha 2 years ukuthi ilungise lesimo lesi so that sizoba nakho ukulingana ngokobulili. Siphinde sibe ne-Children's Act ezivumela ukuthi abantu besifazane abakubudlelwane bobulili obufanayo bakwazi ukuthi nabo babe nelungelo lokuthi ba-adopte. Yes, siphinde sibe ne-Civil Unions Act which allows them to marry as well.
Ne ke batla ho kena hore na ditokelo tsa bona di ba jwang in professional settings, but we will come back to that. We will engage further in this topic after the short break. O ska ba fetwa taba tsa rona di ngata ka jeno, mme re a elellwa hore Afrika Borwa kwano batho be leng hore jwalo ka ha ba tsholo hore ke rainbow community. Ka nnete ba tobane le diphephetso tse ngata. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. The conversation continues on the other side of this short break. Welcome back to Gender Space, the show where we discuss LGBTQIA plus rights. In the studio, we have Nomthandazo Sithole from CGE and Kolegile from the Foundation for Human Rights. Remember to share your thoughts with us on our socials. We are on YouTube at Commission for Gender Equality. On X, we are at CGE_ZA. And on Facebook, we are Commission for Gender Equality. Instagram us at CGE Live, and you can send an email on info@cge.org.za. Now, our guests are here to tell us and to inform us. Tell us about the role of CGE in ensuring the rights of the LGBTQIA plus community and enforcing equality, Nomthandazo.
It is in line with the broader mandate of the CGE, which is to promote and protect gender equality in this country. We do that in various ways. We have departments, three main departments. First one being the legal department, second one being the research department, then the public education and information department. We make use of those departments and also our communications department to make sure that we educate and we are out there advocating and we are showing ukubaluleka kokuhlonipheka kwama-rights of the LGBTQIA plus community.
Matata le kopana le ona, what are some of the challenges when applying these methods and when going out to educate?
It is mainly changing societal attitudes. We go into different spaces where abantu sebe nemicabango yabo vele ngokuthi i-LGBTQIA plus community izanani, which is why we also make use of other stakeholders. Like we work with the Foundations for Human Rights a lot. Colleague Wetulo Esnaila studio can also elaborate on that.
How does the Human Rights Commission engage in partnership with CGE?
The most interesting thing that we've been doing right now through the access to justice component, we have community advice offices that we work with on the ground. What we are doing as the Foundation for Human Rights is that we are doing training programs that are literally looking at, number one, for example, how language incites violence in some of these communities. Because interestingly, English, you can say queer and use those phrases and terms, but if you go back to isiZulu, we still use very derogatory terms. So we're working with traditional councils and royal houses to literally say, how do we learn to package things in our language so as to speak, not to incite violence in communities? And then over and above everything else, our partnerships also cascade and intertwine where the research is concerned, because we go into communities, we do case studies and baseline studies. And we've partnered as well with departments such as the Department of Basic Education. We've rolled out a campaign called the Keep It Constitutional campaign. Keep It Constitutional is targeted at learners across primary school levels until high school. And we are hoping through partnerships that we can take it to university level as well. What makes it interesting is that what you have mentioned, which is the key thing, the Bill of Rights, we are literally teaching pupils at school level and the teachers as well, Hori, you know what, the Bill of Rights promotes identities of all sorts. And within that space, what we are finding interesting is that some teachers are actually part of the community, but they've not been able to come out. So the mandate that they have and the work that we're doing with organizations on the ground is helping us unearth some of those key things. Okay, how do we impart knowledge? How do we empower? How do we transform? How do we engage? But by so engaging, we're not enforcing a Foundation for Human Rights visibility and narrative or CGE narrative there. It's actually the other way around. We are literally saying to communities, tell us how we can help you in understanding the issues.
Hona le taba e ke ile ka re ke batla go tlela go yona, taba ya di-professional settings le tshireletso ya di-rights tsa community ena. Let's talk about that.
We find that the LGBTQIA plus community in professional spaces still suffers ukucwaseka, uthola omunye uzothi uzama uku-aplayela umsebenzi, athi mayeseya kwi-interview abe ngasakwazi noma ngabe kuthiwe ubewamithile wonke ama-requirements ubeyiphasile naleyo interview akasakwazi ukuthi angene khona because uzocwaseka kuqala mhlampe kusukela ekuthenini ubukeka kanjani mhlampe kusukeke kwi-sexual orientation yakhe. So we find those sort of situations which amount to discrimination. Uthole abanye kuba when they apply for promotions, when they have become eligible, abasakwazi ukuthi bakhule in the workplace because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. We receive complaints of that nature as the commission, and then we investigate those complaints through our legal department ukuze siqinisekise ukuthi si creator or noma sisize nabaphathi ukuthi ba create an inclusive space which is conducive for the growth of the LGBTQIA+ community as well.
And just to add on to what my colleague has said here, it's subtle discrimination that also happens in the workplace. Gender neutral bathrooms, for example. It's those things where you're saying, I don't identify as Mr. or Miss. So do I have access to, it's those things. And it's very important to point that out. Right now, the debate, that's where it's moving. That's where the conversation is moving. Spaces, that component that you're speaking about, diversity, upliftment, and ensuring that LGBT people get promoted when they need to be promoted. It's not happening, and it's alarming, but those are some of the key things that we really need to tackle in terms of workplace and institutionalized discrimination.
Skabasuta. Ke ile ka tjho ka re taba tsona di ngata la hele re lwantshana le nako empa he ka mora mona re tswella pele hape ka taba tsena. Welcome back. This is Gender Space. Me nna le bitso la ka ke Thwasa. Re shebane le ditaba mona le hore na Hantlentle Commission ya Gender Equality e sebetsa jwang tabeng ya tshireletso ya ditokelo tsa LGBTQIA+, mme le hore taba ya tekatekano e tsamaya jwang kwano Afrika Borwa. Baiti ba ka kajeno ke Nomthandazo Sithole ha mmoho le colleague Lemnisi. Jwale re tlo utlwa hore tshebedisano mmoho e jwang o la hlalosa taba ya tshebedisano mmoho pakeng tsa mekgatlo ya setjhaba ha mmoho le Commission for Gender Equality. How does other stakeholders, the Commission for Gender Equality, work together with different departments of government in protecting the rights of LGBTQIA+?
The Commission for Gender Equality is part of the National Task Team and the Provincial Task Teams on hate crimes. They are now called SOGIs. The task teams were introduced to fight against hate crimes, which are crimes that are directed at the LGBTQIA+ community. We find that there are a lot of cases lapho utholekiwe umuntu udlwenguliwe because of their sexual orientation, because the rape was supposed to be aimed at correcting them, showing them, like if it's, for example, a lesbian identifying woman, uthole usehlangabezana nokuthi uyadlengula ukuze kuzokhonjiswa ukuthi okay uyintombazane noma ukuthi ashintshiswe lokho. And in these cases they are put before these task teams lapho kusuke sekubhekwa ukuthi okay, are all the different stakeholders playing their part na ekuthenini ekugcineni kosuku kugcine kutholakale i-justice.
Ke botsa dipotso ke fuwa dikarabo me ka nnete ho bohlokwa hore maikutlo a hao a hlahise ska ba lebala o kena social media platforms tsa rona o re jwetse hore maikutlo a hao ke afe le hore na wena leeto la hao le eme jwang. Ke a kgola engwe ya dintlha tse leng hore di kelellong ya ka hana jwale ke taba ya di stats haholo tsa violence o bile enana e hlokolose haholo. Ke a kgola batswadi ba mametseng ba shebelletseng e batla e ba tshwenya ha le sheba di stats tsa violence against people in this community, have they been coming down?
So really, I can't really speak to the stats from a quantitative perspective because I don't do that research work.
Yeah.
But when we go into the social settings, because some of the work that, yes, stats are important, but we also need to measure the societal attitudes and the shift in the societal dynamics. So if you go into a community and you see where, the conversation is now palatable, that for us is also a tick. Yeah.
E hlakile. Jwale ha re bue ka taba ya hore batho be leng hore ba lakatsa ho sebetsa mmoho le all these initiatives, how do they get involved?
Well, ukuthi baze babe involved kusuke kusukela kwimisebenzi abasuke sebeyibonile siyenza, like as i-Commission for Gender Equality, we also have transformation hearings where we invite the public sector and the private sector to appear before us. Lapho suke sobheka izinto ezifana nama-policies abo, sibheke ama-practices abo, sibheke ukuthi ba-inclusive kangakanani. And then where we have identified shortfalls, we then make recommendations which are aimed at creating a more enabling and conducive environment for everyone in that workplace. You find ukuthi as a result of Lama transformation hearings, UCGE has been contacted by other stakeholders who had not appeared before the Commission on previous occasions, who have said, sisacela ukuthi nize nizosiza nisibhekele ama-policies ethu so that we can make sure ukuthi we are inclusive. We find that happening a lot, and we also go out into public spaces following our invitations, of course, to educate on inclusivity as well.
Re tswela pele ka taba tsena fela he jwalo ka ha ke le ka tsho ka re ntwe re lelekisa mona ke nako empa he ke lakatsa hore baiti ba rona ba ke ba re fe mantswe a ho qetela re kwale ditaba tsa rona. I'm going to hand over to you just to briefly your parting shots to our viewers.
Parting shots. Just if it's not broken, let's not fix it. And respect people. Respect people's identities. If who I am and what I believe to be does not cause you any harm, can we just have that as a boundary? There's no right to kill, there's no right to murder, there's no right for corrective rape and those sort of things. And being queer or being part of the rainbow community or identifying as any other identity within the plus and it's not contagious. Let our people learn acceptance and not just tolerance.
Kubalekile ukuthi umphakathi la ngaphandle uqonde ukuthi sikwazi uku-achieve i-gender equality nokuvikeleka also kwama-rights of the LGBTQIA+ community. Kudinga ukuthi sonke size etafuleni. Lapho kudingakala ukuthi umuntu nomuntu azi ukuthi khona indima angayidlala. Emsebenzini wakho ungakwazi ukuthi makuqala kukhulunywa about new policies, ufake ama-inputs nawe ezoba inclusive of the LGBTQIA+ community. Emphakathini wakho, you can also advocate and encourage others to also promote ama-rights of the LGBTQIA+ community amongst wonke amanye amalungelo ekufanele ukuthi ahlonipheke ukuze sonke sikwazi ukuthi siphile freely in this democratic space.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of this week's offering of Gender Space. Remember, we are back again next week right here on Dumisa TV, channel 340. Ho fihlela nako e tlang hle. Ke hantle. Kgotso.